Hi, welcome to Pulse. Thank you for joining us. It's Wednesday, so even though we can't do lunch and we can't eat and do value that way, we're going to add value in a different way. So each week we're talking to different members of our Avondale community, finding out who they are, what inspires them, what drives them, all the good stuff. And today we have Kerry Derbidge. How are you?
I'm really great. Thanks, Brock.
Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Got a couple of questions for you. Pretty
Hit
straightforward.
me.
And the first one is nice and easy. It's simply, what do you do at Avondale?
Okay, so I'm a lecturer at Avondale. My home is in the nursing program. I teach on both campuses when opportunity arises, and I teach across a range of subjects, but my nursing specialty area is mental health. But I also teach into other units within our degree for the Bachelor of Nursing.
Okay, that's good. And I've sat through a couple of things that you've sort of led out in terms of a staff context,
Yes.
which we'll probably get into shortly. But my question, the second one is, first one's an easy one. We get what you do. That's awesome. Part of our community in that way. But what actually gets you out of bed to do the things that you do?
Yeah, look, I love teaching. I'm an Avondale grad. So when I left school, I came to Avondale. I actually only did 2 years of my teaching degree, and then I did some volunteering and I came back. I did secretarial back in the years when we had to learn about computers. We weren't just born knowing how to use them. So we were still logging on at the C prompt, for those of you old enough to know what that means.
Fancy.
Black and white screen. And then I did some more work and travel and volunteering. I lived overseas for a year, and then I decided, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I'm facing 30, and I chose to come back to Avondale and do the nursing degree.
Okay.
And initially I thought I was going to be a midwife. That was kind of, in my head, that's something I wanted to do. And then somehow, I'm going to say miraculously, I've ended up working in mental health. My background is 10 years of summer camps at Yarra Happany, and it's not a straight line between summer camps and mental health nursing, but there's a lot of skills that I picked up there about getting alongside people who are developing, going through change, maybe in crisis, maybe having a lot of challenges, and shaping their experience for the good, for the positive. And when I did my placements as a student nurse in mental health, I saw that there was actually not very many Christian mental health nurses. And I have a kind of a mindset that says I like to be able to do things that other people don't do.
Right.
It's a bit of that's my thrill, is to put myself into situations where someone else says, I could never do that. And I say, well, I can.
And you'll jump in, yeah.
And so I was kind of, I'm not going to say it's my ego, but I see the need and see the opportunity to put together all of the experience that I'd had, not just from my training, but from my life, to put those things together. So I really loved nursing. I loved working in the clinical setting. And by random chance, I saw that Avondale was looking for someone to teach into their mental health program.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, yeah, that'll be good for the future. And so I actually sent someone on the team my resume and said, next time that job comes up, I'd be keen, because I really, in my perspective, had not been a nurse for that long.
Right.
I started as a mature age student. So long story short, I accidentally got the job teaching at Avondale. And I really thought I'd only be here for a year or two. I thought it'd be, great to kind of go back into where I'd studied and share what I'd learnt. And this is now coming up to 10 years for me. So what gets me out of bed and why do I keep doing it?
Yeah.
Just love my students. I love being able to share something with them that I'm passionate about.
Yes.
It's also something that we all have lived experience of. The top 2 mental illnesses are anxiety and depression. Find me a person who hasn't experienced those things,
right,
at least for a period of time. So it's an element of human experience that we all know and understand. So my focus has shifted from making sure that my students know what to do for patients with mental illness. My focus now is much broader, which is making sure my students are well-beings, where I want them to come out of the degree in a good place, personally and as a group, where then they're actually equipped and ready for service, not just with the intellectual and practical skills, but with their own well-being. Because nurses are the tool. We are actually the work. And especially in mental health nursing, where the difference between mental health nursing and other nursing is this concept of being with, not doing for. So you're with someone while they're going through what they're going through.
Yes.
You can't think for them, you can't feel for them, you can't live for them, but you can shape their experience. Do you see the summer camp link coming back in there?
Big time. Yeah.
You can shape their experience so that not as a crutch and not as a, like, you don't sub in for somebody, but you literally play team with them as they're going through things. And that is what keeps me going. That's my passion. That's what I want to imprint that on people. And I want them to imprint it on me, because I need that too. I'm not like this pillar of mental health.
Right,
I'm a normal person with my ups and downs and my challenges and my, strengths, and my students are too. And they bring a range of knowledge and wisdom and life experience from all around the world, different cultural perspectives, different beliefs and values, and yet we can play team together. It's one of the things that I love about nursing, and that's definitely what still gets me out of bed.
That's incredible. And that whole posture is a really powerful one. And that it's so simple, but it's huge, right? And the effect that would have, I guess, like you're saying, on you and on your students, just the posture that you're bringing, that I'm not doing this for you, I'm with you. That's incredible.
Absolutely. Like, I still have to grade your papers, and I have to tell you when you've done something wrong, but you can give me feedback as well. And I will always see that as a learning curve and positive in terms of development.
That's brilliant. I love that. So the third question that I would ask you then, and this will probably be tricky, right? Like, if you've just got to distill everything down, and if you could only share one thing with somebody to speak life into them, to inspire them, what would that be?
To always see yourself as a learner. From time to time, students say, wow, I wish I knew what you know, or I could do what you do. And I always hasten to add that we are just, we're only able to do what we can do at the time that we do it, because we've gone through processes. Right. So, and I don't see any processes ending. So see yourself as a learner in life. Use processes of reflection. Think about what you've learned about yourself, first and foremost. We often think about, what have I learned about the situation, or what to do in this job interview or whatever, but think about what you've learned about yourself as a person. See yourself as having value, and that value is not impeded by success or failure, because it's all part of learning. So as a lecturer, I would say that's my takeaway. See yourself as a lifelong learner and embrace that process, because it helps to even out the ups and downs. Yes. You can always say to yourself, oh, well, next time. Or you can say, that was fantastic, I hope to replicate that again in future. It's the pocket that I try to live in, that I accept what comes, and I try my best. I don't expect perfection from myself, but I expect repeated application to the events of my life. And just see yourself as a learner, always. Don't feel like when you finish with Avondale, you've graduated into life. Yes. We talk about real life or the uni bubble or whatever. That's all kind of true, but there's no, like, you don't step out the door and suddenly you've arrived. It's always going to keep going. I'm sure you understand.
100%. Yeah. You've never made it, right? And the minute that you think you've made it, that's the moment when you lose it. Yeah.
I talk about, in school, you go through the grades, and you definitely see yourself as above the lower grades, and ones ahead of you are like the big kids. Right. But I think it's like coming up from the floor of the ocean. You're like a bubble. You rise up to the top, and you get to the top, but it's not the top, because the ocean's going like this all the time, right? So even if you're at the top of the ocean, you're never there. You're always going up and down. Some people might think that's not very comforting. I actually think it's great, because there's no expectation that there's a finish line I have to meet. I'm just going to keep going through my day. The journey is definitely more important than the destination.
So good. That's awesome. See, that's why I love these 3 questions, because they're so simple, but we get to find out heaps about you, and we get to find out what drives you, and it inspires others. So thank you, Kerry. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for investing, and thanks for being part of our awesome community too. You're a legend.
No worries. Thank you, students, for listening to my little chat.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us for Pulse.